Melania moved to open up the door into the carriage so that they could enter. The interior was spacious and plush. There were leather sofas, a leather chair, coffee tables, and a mini dining area. This was not a normal carriage, and used the same ability as a stronghold, where the exterior did not reflect the interior. From the outside, the size of the carriage looked like an average carriage you could expect on Earth, but the inside was the size of a decent-sized pool house. There were plenty of windows so that you could view the outside of the carriage, but since the interior was like a separate dimension, there was now a feeling of motion. It felt like when someone was watching the TV or someone traveling, where the experience felt surreal. Glancing over, he curiously watched Alice's expression and enjoyed how she marveled about everything. "Brittany, bring me some refreshments and fruit here," he ordered. Sitting down on the leather seat, he enjoyed the way the leather cushions embraced him. This seat gave him a full view of the carriage interior, the way the landscape passed by. It made him feel like he was going backward. Melania and Queen sat on the sofa to his left, opposite of the entrance, while Ella sat by herself on the couch to his right. The way the interior was set up looked similar to those large, expensive RVs that politicians use as they cross the United States for national elections. The difference was that this place didn't have beds and kitchen, just having a lounge and dining area. Part of him felt he should materialize a cigar, since it looked like those upscale cigar lounges he and his friends would frequent during college. They would pretend to be wealthy CEOs as they were checking out the serving girls, who wore skimpy outfits, and that's what rich old guys like to look at. After some time, Brittany materialized with a large tray that had a large bowl, along with 4 smaller empty bowls of fruit and 4 glasses, filled with some kind of beverage. She placed the tray on top of the coffee table and proceeded to bring each of them a drink. Seeing that his chair didn't have a glass holder, he modified the leather seat to have one. Taking the glass out of the cup holder, he tasted the liquid and thought it tasted similar to a traditional sweet tea. He saw Brittany begin to dish out various fruits into each of the empty bowls. She walked over and placed the plate on the small seat table. On his left, in the bowl was sliced strawberries, honeydew, pineapples, and apples. There were also grapes, which were still on the vine. Once Brittany completed her task of distributing the dish to everyone, she came and stood next to him on his left. "Master, if you'd like, I can feed you the fruits for your convenience," Brittany shyly asked him, trying to look professional. Even though she didn't need to do this, it was nice feeling that she wanted to spoil him. He wondered if this was how Roman emperors felt, having people feed them the snacks into their mouths. Sliding his hand up her skirt and groping her, he nodded his consent. From the way she quivered, Han could tell that she was happy to being able to personally serve him. When she placed one of the grapes into his mouth, he enjoyed how juicy and sweet the fruit was. Looking at the world outside and enjoying the food going into his lips, he enjoyed the tactile feel when he squeezed Brittany's ass. Her ass felt a little firmer than a rice cake. "Ellis, are you enjoying yourself?" he asked his new traveling companion, who was blissfully eating the fruit. Blushing from being asked so suddenly, as she was gorging on exquisite fruit, she said, "My lord, I have never eaten such sweet fruits in my entire life. Even this carriage looks magical. How is it so much larger inside compared to how it looks from the outside?" Her innocent wonder was very endearing. It made him happy that he was able to show someone in this world such happiness. Just having this power and hogging it for himself and his creations didn't seem like the right thing to do. It would be good to show off to at least a few humans, or non-humans, his wealth and power. Didn't everyone enjoy showing off now and then? He thought to himself. It's a simple ability of mine. I'm happy that you're enjoying it. Don't hold yourself back if you feel yourself being thirsty or hungry. The food is something we have plenty in stock, so if there is a particular meal you enjoy, just let me know. Thinking about it for a second, Han said, Brittany, have 2 maids come here to look after Ellis. As my master commands, I shall obey. Brittany then looked like she was speaking to someone, when suddenly 2 cute, near-identical maids appeared. The one on the left had ruby red hair, and the second one had jet black hair. The 2 maids faced him and curtsied. Master, we are here to serve, they said in unison. You 2 are so adorable looking. Have you chosen your names? He asked them, laughing at their bustling faces after having him complimenting them. My name is Cindy, Master, said the red-haired maid. My name is Mindy, Master, said the black-haired maid. I have summoned the 2 of you to look after Ellis and fulfill her various requests, Han told the 2 young maids. My lord, you don't need to go so far for me, Ellis tried to protest. Nonsense. Just let them know if there are any foods that you're interested in eating. They will also help with bringing you your clothes that are being made, he explained to her. Though he could have had Brittany bring Ellis various foods and stuff, he didn't feel like sharing his personal maid. While he was moving his hand around the different parts of her, he felt a slippery liquid dripping down her leg. Thinking for a second, Han realized that Brittany was extremely wet down there. You are a very naughty maid, Han chuckled at Brittany. Squirming her body in embarrassment, Brittany said, But master, your hand feels so good there. I'm sorry for being such a dirty maid. Now, I'm glad that my beautiful little Brittany is feeling so aroused. I just can't help getting a taste of your body, he gently smacked her affectionately. Glancing at Helania and Queen, they were both looking at Brittany with jealousy, wishing they could trade places with her. With such women around, how could he not feel loved and appreciated? Master, up ahead there is a large number of people quickly heading towards a relatively large caravan, Andrea alerted him. How far away are they? He asked in response. It's about 30 miles in front of us. What are your orders? Han leaned back into his chair and thought about this, whether they should help these strangers or not. The question wasn't whether they were able to assist them, it was whether this kind of support would be beneficial to his enjoyment. He was hoping to head to a fairly large village and see if the people there were better than the village Ellis came from. Shrugging his shoulders, Han commanded, Speed up and catch up to them. If something happens before we can get there, then it's none of my concern. Han could sense the carriage speeding up to a fairly dangerous speed. Inside the carriage there was no change, so none of the others knew that they were racing down the road towards a fight. When he arrived, the idea of using the word fight was silly, considering how it would be more like a slaughter. Samantha was sitting next to her mother and was frightened by how the wagon was going. Her daddy was scaring her as he shouted for them to stay down. The 2 of them were in the wagon bed, behind various boxes her daddy was planning to unselling at the village. She was feeling confused because her parents told her that traveling with other merchants would mean that people wouldn't attack them. Now they were trying to get away from evil men who were shooting arrows at them. Damn, those Lunar Empire soldiers, her daddy shouted out as he whipped the horses to go faster. Father, they are getting closer and I'm about ready to run out of bolts, shouted Samantha's older brother, Jake. Her father started to swear after hearing Jake. Looking back at him, her father yelled out, Start throwing out the boxes and try to trip those Empire scum. We're going to need to make this wagon lighter if we're going to make it to the village. We just need to make it to the village. There's an outpost in the village, so they'll be able to handle these pieces of shit. A bolt suddenly struck close to where her mother's leg was. Even though they were huddling and trying to make themselves a small target, they were almost able to hit her mother. Her mother screamed in fright, seeing how close the bolt lodged itself into the back of the wagon. Mommy, I'm scared! Samantha cried out to her mother, burying her face into her mother's arm. Her mother patted her head and tried to say in a strong voice, It'll be alright, my baby. Daddy will get us to the village and we'll be safe. From the way her mother was talking, she could tell that they were probably going to get caught by the bad men. She cried, not wanting to think about what was going to happen. Samantha felt a sudden lurch as the wagon suddenly weaved. "What are you guys doing?" her father yelled out. She heard a voice call out, belonging to one of the other merchants. "I'm sorry, Carl. We have to think about our family." "Stop it! You're going to make the horses trip if you keep tossing your boxes." Her daddy tried to reason with them. There was another lurch of the wagon, as it probably tried to dodge another box the merchant was throwing. Just as he thought they were okay, she heard her dad yell out, "Brace yourself!" and felt the wagon tip over. It felt like the world had suddenly flipped upside down and all of them were flung out of the wagon. Her mother held on to her as she suddenly felt the two of them hit the grassy ground. They slid several feet before suddenly stopping. The entire world felt like it was spinning out of control and her whole body hurt. Samantha didn't know how long she laid there, but she heard her family calling out to one another. "But, babe, are you all right?" She heard her mother's voice, but only make out a couple of words. "Mommy, what happened?" She tried to speak, but felt like her mind was full of wool. The world was starting to stop spinning. As she got up, she saw her brother and father holding a sword. The bad men that were chasing them were slowly approaching them on their horses. "Seems like all of them survived," yelled out the man in the front, while the other men were laughing. "I was worried that I was going to have to find a corpse today." This got the other men to laugh louder. She couldn't understand why they were such evil people. "It's going to be okay. Mommy will protect you," her mother said to her. The arms that held her were shaking fear, or maybe that was her. "Molly! Jake and I will hold them off. You need to take Samantha and run to the village." Her dad yelled back to her mother. "Tom, I won't leave you. Damn you, woman, for once in your life will you just do what I tell you. We'll be okay, and we'll see you in the village," her daddy screamed out. "Mother, please, for all that is pure in the world, listen to what Father is saying. We'll see you in the village. You can't let these savages have Samantha." Jake tried to reason with her. Samantha felt the teardrops fall on top of her head as her mother started to cry and began to get up. She stumbled for a second, and when Samantha looked, she saw a large patch of blood on her mother's skirt. Her mother turned around and looked straight into her eyes and said, "Samantha, your mommy, daddy, and Jake love you very much. Can my baby be a big girl for mommy?" Her mother was sobbing with tears streaming down. "Can you, my big girl? I need you to run to the village. The strong knights will protect you. Listen to your mommy, okay? We'll see you at the village after Daddy and Jake beat the bad man." Shaking her head, Samantha yelled, "No, mommy. I don't want to go. I want to stay with everyone." Samantha knew that her mother and everyone was lying, and if she left, then she would be all alone. "Who the fuck are you?" one of the men in the back yelled out. Both Samantha and her mother looked back to see what was happening. Behind the evil men, there was a pretty carriage with a scary dragon in front. She was scared that this was an evil person that was with the wicked men. In the stories, knights would ride on pretty white horses, not have a scary dragon. When the carriage stopped, everyone was looking at this carriage. Slowly a door opened, and out came a beautiful lady in a pretty maid outfit. It looked like she was holding the door open and bowing her head, her back towards them. A man who looked a little older than her brother came out wearing weird clothes. Walking a little bit away from the carriage, the man looked around and acted like he was coming for a picnic, just enjoying the beautiful weather. How could the man not see the bad men with swords right there? "Hello there," the man called out to all of them, looking completely relaxed. Behind him, another beautiful lady came out, but she was wearing a leather outfit. Another lady came out, but she looked like she was just a regular village lady, like her mother. Standing behind them were three pretty maids standing in a line. Maybe they did come from a picnic, Samantha thought to herself. Looking up to her mother, she asked, Mommy, are those bad men going to kill the pretty ladies? Her mother didn't say anything and just held her closer. Whoa, those are some lovely looking whores you got there, the bad man in front yelled out. You look a bit lost. How about you leave behind those lovely looking whores and get back into your fancy carriage and be on your way? The man started to laugh and say, I'm having appalling luck with people today. First I go to a village that treats people like crap, and now I'm dealing with stereotypical evil soldiers. Is there any way you could be more cliche? The bad men didn't look happy at the man laughing at them, and turned towards him, holding their swords menacingly. I try to be a gentleman, but I guess we're going to need to treat this noble brat a lesson. Make sure you don't hurt the woman. I get first dibs on all of them, and the rest you can have share after I'm done. Captain, you're so generous, one of the men yelled out, amongst the cheering of the other men. Aside from the village lady, none of the people standing next to the carriage looked frightened. Samantha looked confused, since there were so many bad men, but there was only one man. Jake, we need to help those people out, her daddy told her brother. Getting his sword ready, Jake said, Yes, father. Without any indication, the lady in leather suddenly made a big sword appear, and she jumped at the bad men. Swinging her big sword, the bad men were killed one by one. Sometimes, when the lady swung her sword, she would also cut the horses in half and blood would spray out everywhere. What are you doing? Hurry up and stop her. She's just one woman, the man shouted at the other bad men. The lady kept on killing the bad men, bathing the grass in blood until it looked like a small lake of blood had formed. Samantha's father and Jake just stood there looking stunned, no longer trying to help. Even though her brother looked very strong with a sword, Samantha didn't think Jake could beat that woman. When the captain was killed by the beautiful lady, she made her sword disappear and walked back to the man. The man kissed the beautiful lady and then walked towards her father and brother. Before he reached the blood, he waved his hand and made the blood disappear. Jake and her father put away their swords, and her mother and Samantha walked slowly to rejoin them. When her father looked back at them to make sure they were okay, he saw her mother's injury. Her mother looked very pale and leaned heavily on her. Samantha was a big girl, so she tried her best to support her mother. When the man came closer, followed by the pretty ladies, he said, Oh my, that looks pretty serious. If you don't get her some medical attention quickly, I don't believe she's going to make it. I hope that one of you is a doctor, considering how the nearest village is still ways away and too far for her. At the rate she's bleeding, I estimate she'll pass away in less than half an hour, so I advise you to act with haste. My lord, please, would you be willing to take my wife in your carriage to the village? If it's payment, I have money to pay. I beg you, my lord. Samantha's father sobbed, pleading to young lord. The young lord tilted his head as if considering it, looking as if this whole situation was a hassle, and coldly said, I don't feel like doing that. Her father dropped to his knee and pressed his forehead to the ground and begged, My lord, I will do anything if you can save my wife. Please. Looking bored by the spectacle of her father kneeling in front of him, he simply said, How about I do this instead? And just raised his left hand and snapped his finger. Her father looked up in confusion and looked ready to ask the young lord what he meant, when her mother suddenly exclaimed, Honey, I'm healed! Her father, Jake, and Samantha looked at her mother, wondering what she was talking about, and saw that the wound on her leg was gone. They just stared at the place that was dripping with blood earlier and only saw her clean clothing. All of them looked at the young lord, who was smiling and calmly said, Isn't this a better solution?